Hello, welcome to Revelator Alpha. I hope you're all well. Thanks for joining me this lunchtime here in the UK. I'm going to be talking about all the latest news from the motorcycle world, giving you some of my thoughts of what is going on in different manufacturers, different brands, that kind of thing. I'm going to be spending a little bit of time on this show talking about Triumph motorcycles and what they're doing for 2026. Some great stuff, continuation of great stuff, in my humble opinion. And I will look at other manufacturers to see why can't other manufacturers do exactly the same kind of thing, right? And I think you know where I'm going with this as well. I'm also going to be looking at some of the things that affect us as bikers on a day-to-day basis. In terms of hazards, in terms of state of the roads, in terms of the kind of things that we're looking forward to this coming riding season, all that kind of good stuff. So if you're joining, let us know in the chat below. If you're watching later, give us your comments on, we're just approaching spring now. Are you really looking forward to the spring riding season? I got my bike out the other day, gave it a good old wash, went all over it, and it was all working swimmingly. And I said I couldn't wait to get out on it. And then the heavens opened, and it's just been a crappy couple of days. Today, actually, it's a really nice day. So after I do this, I'm getting out on the bike and I'm going to go for a little ride, which is what I do every day on most days, actually. So, have you been riding through the winter? Do you hate riding crappy weather? Or is it really good about just waiting for those sunny days, those spring days, and into the summer? I was watching a really interesting video the other day about a guy who was building bikes, trying to make a go of it building bikes, and it kind of spiraled into depression, especially over the winter period, and wanting to, start afresh in terms of spring and everything like that. I thought it was a really interesting video. So let us know your thoughts on that whole thing, about the biking community, motorcycle events that you want to go to, rallies, that kind of thing. Are you looking forward to? I'm certainly looking forward to that. I love the winter. I'm a winter person, don't get me wrong. Absolutely love it. But let's make no bones about it. If you want to really enjoy motorcycling, it's dry days and summer days and rallies and everything. That's where it's at, right? That's where it's at. That's where you really want to be doing stuff, or going to motorcycle races, that kind of whatever it is. And I love all that. But let us know your thoughts in the comments below of that. Okay, so one of the things, I suppose I'll do the old reverse-a-roo around on this one. Some of the hazards that are really affecting bikers. Well, one of the key things here is potholes. In the UK, potholes have always been a big issue because we pay so much in terms of the privilege, in inverted commas, to be able to ride our bikes or drive our cars or trucks on the road, in terms of road tax, in terms of how much we pay for these vehicles, and so on and so forth. But also we see a lot of the time that the roads are not really kept in good order, especially going through the winter months. There always seems to be big cracks and roads that are left in a bad state for many, many months, in fact sometimes years, right? And it's been a big thing over the last few years in terms of local authorities having enough money to be able to pay for these things, and the costs just spiraling out of control, and nobody seems to know how to deal with it in a proper way. So they keep on trying to put this onto the road user. No, you've got to pay more tax just to pay for this stuff. So I'll give you a little case in point here. The other day there were two situations. One, I was riding my bike, and one of those I was driving in my car. One, I was driving my car overnight, right across the road. Potholes like this appeared, about this deep, about like that. And some a little bit longer, but about that deep. Just suddenly appeared across the road, and all the cars, we were like, whoa, whoa. What was going on? So that was in my car. We go, where did these come from? And it's, you hear it time and time again, car drivers and truck drivers hitting these potholes and damaging their rims. Think about if you're on a bike and you don't see it, or it's it's a dark night, that kind of thing, and all of a sudden it just comes up. You got because the argument they'll always put on you, so you should always be able to avoid these potholes and everything like that. But the problem is we know that's not always possible. In fact, it's not possible in certain situations, because it really depends on how you're viewing the road and what the camber is of the road as well, and that can distort your view of the road surface at a given point. So as you're riding along or driving along, you can't avoid it. You go straight over it because of a certain point. Obviously, the faster you go, the less likely you are to be able to avoid it anyway. So that was a real shock. That was a real shock. The other one was actually I was riding my bike, and this was in the daylight hours, and again, this came up overnight, and what it was towards the side of the road, the near side of the road, but it was a good meter into the middle of the road of a huge pothole, and it just completely just fallen away. And this, okay, I drive on that or ride on that road a lot, and I hadn't noticed it in the let's say the last 2 or 3 days. I hadn't been on it, but I hadn't been on it but I had driven it on previous days. I'd never noticed it. So within a 2 or 3 day period, this huge pothole had developed, right? Now we've got to think we've had a lot of rain, we're still ongoing traffic, we've had temperature variations, and this is what they will always blame it on. The fact of the matter is that you're getting huge potholes that riders, bikers and drivers, but especially bikers, are going to go over this and do damage to their vehicles or bikes, or worse, come off and get seriously injured, or if not even worse, death. So you kind of wonder what is going on. Why is it that these situations are happening in the first place when we're paying so much for roads? Now, this is again, you go to other countries, and I'm not saying other countries are worse, of course, but other countries are a lot better. Other countries have just the same kind of weather conditions as we do, but they seem to be able to fix their roads or have much better roads. And it's a constant gripe for drivers and riders in the UK, the state of the roads. And then you kind of think, oh, well, I want a sports bike, or I want a hardtail chopper and all this kind of stuff. When really what you need is an adventure bike a lot of the time to be able to go, even just to go on the normal roads. You need a 4x4 truck just to be able to survive on the roads and without having any damage. So it's a big problem. It's a big problem for UK road users, and maybe it's the same wherever you are, but one of the big gripes is, how long does these things take to get fixed? And there's always commissioning bodies. There's a report here in, I think it's Visor Down, UK magazine. Yeah. Data shows, let me just bring it up for you. Data shows here, increase in UK pothole problem. So I, read the article. Yeah, it's interesting. But the point is, every year we have this. Every year a winter period was a huge discussion of potholes, the safety aspect. So let's just say I could be wrong, and I will lend myself over to people with more knowledge on this as well. But let's just say you cause damage to your vehicle. I don't believe that we have any rights in being able to claim damage back from the council because of their pothole. Because they say, well, you should avoid it, you shouldn't go over it, it's not our fault, it's your fault. When our argument said, no, it is your fault. So I don't know what the legal is. I certainly have no idea what the ramifications are if somebody gets injured or somebody dies, especially if a biker, if they hit a pothole and they lose control and it flings them off. I have no idea, because if something isn't road worthy, if the road isn't worthy enough, then is it the responsibility of the road, or is it the responsibility of the road user? Bearing in mind that the road user has to pay for the privilege to go on the road, or I don't want to use privilege, but has to pay to go onto the road in terms of road tax for the upkeep. So as a road user, we are collectively paying for a service to be provided. That service is not provided. Therefore, in my opinion, it leads to a breach of contract. a breach of contract where the road, whoever's in charge of the road, that particular road, whether it's highways, whether it's local authority, whatever it is, government, they're not fulfilling their end of the bargain. They're not upholding their end of the contract in providing a road-worthy, a vehicle-worthy or vehicle-suitable piece of road. And then they're charging for it as well. So it'd be very interesting to see if there have been any cases, which I haven't dug into in all fairness, whether somebody who has an accident or has an injury, has a fatality, whether the family can at least hold somebody to account or hold the authority to account. I would be surprised if nobody's tried to do this in the past. But they will always try and come back at you. So it's up to your responsibility. But you're making it virtually impossible. As I say, when I went over this one stretch the other day in my truck, the whole road, right across the road, there were potholes all over, big potholes right across the road. You think we can't avoid it? You can't avoid it. It's crazy. I mean, it's like you're going off-road, and you're kind of doing this, with your car, and doom, doom. It's awful. But anyway, listen, we know the problems here in the UK. It's an ongoing thing. Whether in cities or on the open road. In cities, it's bad enough, or built-up areas are bad enough, but at least potentially you're going slower. On the open road, you could be doing 40, 50, 60, 70 miles an hour on the motorways, for example. You got no chance. If you hit one of these, you really got no chance. It's going to be very hard to avoid something like that, especially if your line of sight over the camber of the road, or if there's a slight bump in the road, a hill in the road, you'll come over it and you won't even see it. So that's one of the things. Okay, so there's my little moan for the day. But as I say, food for thought. Be careful out there on the roads, especially if you start to come out of the winter hibernation period and get out onto road a lot more. Okay, I want to talk about Triumph motorcycles. Amazing, right? So I think it was in December they released news that they were going to be releasing in 2026. They're going to be releasing 2 extra variants of the 400cc bikes. The new one is the Thruxton, which we had lots of spy photos of last year, the Thruxton. And also, the Thruxton and the Tracker. This is Flat Tracker. I'm just going to show you a bit of the Tracker first of all. This is from Triumph Media site, so thanks very much to them. Let me just sort of skip forward here a bit. I mean, just look at this bike. 400cc. Look at that. It looks the DBs. It looks absolutely brilliant. Look at that. Right, let me just go there. Is there anything? Yeah, there. Let's just do that. That looks really nice, right? Let me just show you the Thruxton here. This is the Thruxton. Look at that. Exactly the same kind of chassis and frame and engine and everything, but obviously a different look, right? I mean, look at that. Really nice. Okay. So, my point here is, okay, just look at these bikes. Okay, they don't have to be big bikes. They're just 400cc bikes. They're not really fast bikes. But I want to bring you on to the website for Triumph motorcycles here in the UK, right? The Tracker, the new Tracker, which you can put an order in for, is £5,745. The Thruxton, £5,995. If you go onto these little icons here, it will tell you what's all included. It's on the road price, delivery, number plate, all this sort of stuff. 2 years, Triumph Assist, a European Rescue now included, servicing, all this kind of stuff. Right? It's brilliant. It's the same with the other one as well, right? So for less than £6,000, dollars, shekels, whatever you want to call it, right? You're getting one hell of a bike here. You're getting one hell of a bike that is going to be great to go out and have fun, do whatever you want to do. So the question is, well, are other manufacturers, Western manufacturers, doing this for this price? This is what you got to ask us for this price. Pistol Pete, hello. Thanks for joining. The tracker looks amazing. I think it does too. It looks absolutely great. So other manufacturers doing this. Now, I always like the likes of Triumph who do something different. They just didn't want to do their retro bikes. They just didn't want to do their big adventure bikes. Their sportier bikes. They wanted to do something different and open up a market to those people who don't want big bikes, who can't afford big bikes, or potentially don't have licenses to ride the big bikes, right? So they thought about it and they thought, we're going to do this. They've also got their off-road bikes, right? Let me just bring the website up, because this is the first year they're bringing out their 450s. So they've had 2 years of their 250s. Now they've got their 450s. They've got motocross bikes. They've got enduro bikes as well, right? All in the region of about 10,000, something like that, £10,000, dollars, shekels. The 250 motocross, and I'm not sure about the enduro. I think so. I'll have to go into the memory banks for that one. But they've been racing that. They're in competitive racing, get some really good results on that as well. 450, they got the team announced for the 450 for this series for this year as well. So they're not just doing road bikes. They've gone into off-road bikes as well the last 3 or 4 years. So you take a company like Triumph and you think, right, okay, what are they offering the consumer? What are they offering the motorcycling public? They're offering variety. They're offering value. They're offering really cool looking bikes. They're offering bikes that people want to use, want to ride. Yeah, and they're looking at different types of rider, different riders, different riding appetites. They tick so many different boxes now. It's unbelievable. It's absolutely unbelievable what they do. Pistol Pete, yeah, let me just bring up your comment here. In my opinion, Triumph have created a range of motorcycles that will satisfy every type of rider at reasonable price points. That's it. That's exactly my point. They satisfy that need for people to want to get onto bikes. And not everybody wants a big bike. Not everybody wants a 1000cc, a 1 point, a 107, 114, 117, 121 inch cubic inch motor, 2 litre engine. No, not everybody wants that. Not everybody wants to ride at 180 miles an hour. Not everybody wants to ride a big cruiser or a big tour or some people, they just want different types of bikes. So if you've got a manufacturer who's catering to that, that's fantastic. Now, you take Triumph motorcycles and you bring in a competition to Triumph in this kind of 400cc sector. You've got the likes of Royal Enfield, right? Royal Enfield have been producing a lot of these bikes for years and years and years. Actually, that's why the Triumph 400s was first launched in India, to try and have a bit of a fist fight there with Royal Enfield. That's why Harley Davidson, with the X440 in collaboration with Hero MotoCorp in India, they tried to pick a fight with Royal Enfield as well. The problem was, I don't know if you know this or anybody knows this, when Harley Davidson was supposed to be bringing out their X440, it was supposed to be for another couple of months later. They suddenly realised that Triumph were bringing out their bike early. I think I've got this right. They brought their bike out early, so Harley Davidson had to rush their bike out, so they were both released within a week of each other in the Indian market. What Triumph did, which Harley Davidson never did, Triumph brought the 400cc to the European market, into the American market, whereas Harley Davidson never did. So this is my point when you talk about different manufacturers, what can they do? What are you doing? You take a company like Triumph, they've built a motorcycle or a series of motorcycles, lots of motorcycles, that have sold amazingly well around the world. In fact, they are, I would imagine, they are Triumph's #1 seller. And they're almost writing, they're drawing the blueprints there. They're writing the script and how well-established motorcycle manufacturers, they can evolve, they can change, they can do things in a different way. I have a lot of time for Triumph motorcycles, I've got to say. Not necessarily because I love their bikes, which I do, but that's a kind of aside. I love Triumph motorcycles because of this very thing. That they've evolved, they've looked at the market, they've looked at the type of motorcycles that they were producing, and they thought, we need to change, we need to evolve, we need to pick on that market, we need to pick away at that market, we need to get certain people in that give credibility to what we're doing. Let's say with their motocross bikes, enduro bikes, okay? They brought credibility, they brought the GOAT in. Okay, if you don't know who I'm talking about, go research it. They brought the GOAT in motocross world to come in and have a look at that and help design that and help promote those bikes in the initial period. You take what they've done with the 400s, but also they haven't ignored their stuff, their other bikes that they're already producing. It's not as if they said, right, we're going to stop all those bikes and we're just going to focus on those little dirt bikes and these little 400cc's. No, they've carried on. They've carried on doing it. And as a company, they've grown. As unit sales, they've grown. BMW, to a lesser degree, have done it, but they always had their 310. Now they've got their 450 F450 GS as well. There's talks of the F450 also being in a kind of sportier package as well. They're doing it. Ducati, they're doing it with their bikes and their Scrambler series. They've been doing this for years and years and years. Not at the price point we're talking about here, though. They're doing it more expensive, but they offer more than just like the big ADV Multistradas or the big, Panigale sports bikes or anything like that. They're doing something, or the big cruiser, the Diavel sports cruiser. They're doing something different. So then you flip this around. What are other manufacturers doing in a similar kind of fold? Where you mentioned Triumph and BMW in the same breath, right? You kind of include within that Harley Davidson, Indian. And you could throw in a couple of other manufacturers there as well, who have a kind of a foot in the modern world of motorcycling, but they also have a foot in the traditional or retro way of motorcycling as well, right? Well, you take the likes of Harley Davidson. They're not doing this. Indian are not doing this. I just think, well, what does it take for these companies to realise that this is achievable? This is done. The biggest failing of Harley Davidson, in my opinion, was that they didn't look at the success of Triumph with those 400cc's and try and replicate it with the X440 or other variants of a 440cc. They haven't brought out other motorcycles with Hero MotoCorp. When Harley Davidson started with Hero MotoCorp, I'm not sure if many of you are aware of, there was this leaked memo from the CEO of Hero when they said there are 10 motorcycles that are in the pipeline with the partnership with Harley Davidson, right? We haven't seen that. We've seen a couple of variants here and there, yes, but we haven't actually seen anything near like that 10 motorcycles in a couple of years, whatever. Okay, we've still got a bit of time for that timeline to expire, but we haven't seen anything more of that. They never brought the X440 out to Europe, certainly into the United States. They could have done this. They could have done something. They could have brought something else to the market. But because they were so fixated on only that hardwire program with Jochen Zeitz and, maximizing profits for those most expensive bikes and everything, they failed. They even identified this themselves when a senior manager from Harley Davidson, they said, the reason why they got rid of the Sportster is because they weren't making enough money on the per unit price of each Sportster. But they acknowledge they've now got a gap in that market where they haven't got any bikes. And what they should have done is maybe persisted with a Sportster, or maybe just reduce the number of the Sportsters available, what they were going to continue with, and just continue to sell that, even if it was a no profit or a slight loss on each unit. A loss leader, if it was a loss leader on each unit. They acknowledge that. They acknowledge that's what they needed to do. This is when we start hearing things a few months later about the Sprint coming out as well. So they've acknowledged it, but they haven't really done anything about it. But the answer was staring them right in the face the whole time. Triumph had the blueprint. They've written the blueprint. They've showed the whole world, hey, this is what we can do. We can do this really, really easy. I just want to take you back to this. Right, this is what they have done. This is what they've produced. I mean, I'm going to look at it. Just look at that. Look at the lines on that. You could argue, I don't like the look of that. I get it. You don't have to like the look of it. But some people will. Let's just say, for example, put this out there. Let's just say, for example, Indian, Harley Davidson, BMW. I'm just trying to think of another manufacturer. Let's just stick with those three for now. They said, ooh, I like the look of what Triumph have done. Could we produce a bike in a similar kind of thing to the Thruxton? Or if we go up here to the Tracker, could we do something like the Tracker? Let's have a look here. Let me show you. There we go. There we go. Something like the Tracker. Could we do something like that? There we go. Look at that. Would those manufacturers say, look at that and go, could we do it? You're telling me, well, nobody's telling me, because I think we can all agree here, that the likes of Harley Davidson, that the likes of Indian and BMW can't produce bikes like that? Of course they can. Of course they can. There's a big need, a big demand for bikes like this, and they could easily produce them. Now, of course, when I say easily, relatively easily, of course, you've got to talk about R&D. But what I'm trying to say is the blueprint is there. In fact, the blueprint was there before Triumph doing it, because Royal Enfield were already doing similar kind of things. In fact, the blueprint was there. Harley Davidson knew about this because they already went into with Hero, do the X440. They went in with QJ Motor for the X350 and the X500. So they knew they could work those bikes. But it's almost like the arrogance of these manufacturers, the Harley Davidsons, the Indians, and other manufacturers saying, no, we can't do that. We're not going to do that. And this is what gets people going. This is what gets people, the juices flowing. This is where I take and I talked about Royal Enfield the other day, but you could also talk about the Chinese brands, is that they are fueling the motorcycling mindset, the motorcycle desire from many, many people, because they're saying these are great looking bikes. They ride well enough. But the price is great, so the price is great, so they're still fun enough. You're not going to get a 200-mile-an-hour bike for $6,000, shekels, right? But you're going to get a very good 400, 300cc bike, right? That you'll have fun on. This is why the likes of BSA coming out with a $3,500, $4,000 bike, which is, different styles. A little mini ADV bike, adventure bike, and a sort of flat trackery type bike. And people are going, yeah, I'm looking at those going, yeah, what a great little bike these are. Fantastic to have fun on. So, people say, oh, well, Harley Davidson can't do those and you shouldn't do those. Why not? Why not? Why can't they do it? Why can't they do it? This is a question you should be asking yourself. So why can't they do this? And, if we're talking about now moving out into the winter months and going into the spring, this is what people are looking for. They're looking to, get rid of those frowns and start coming up with the smiles. And these are the kind of bikes that are going to get people out of their cars, off their sofas, and into this kind of way. Scoot Jock, hello mate, how are you? Thanks for joining. Thanks for joining. I hope you're all well over there in Germany. Hope you're all well. This is what we need. We're coming off now, long winter. Coming on this, we're looking forward to those dry days, summer days, whatever it is. I ride throughout the winter, so it's not. I'm not flexing any muscles. I don't necessarily. I've always enjoyed the challenge in many ways. I don't necessarily enjoy riding in the winter. One thing I hate about riding in winter is having to get all dressed up in the warm weather clothing and the boots and the gloves and all that kind of stuff. As the years have gone by, I enjoy it less and less and less for that. But I do still enjoy going out on the roads, especially if it's a dry day, a dry road day. Fantastic, right? Lovely. Even though it's cold, I love it. But, I'd be lying to you if I didn't say no. I love those spring days, and I love going into the summer days and summer evening rides. Summer evening rides are just absolutely fantastic. But then the social aspect of it, of just going out summer evening rides or weekend rides or whatever it is, going to rallies, going to bike cafes, pubs, whatever it is, just seeing, people all out there. And it's just great to have that. I'd say I was watching a video the other day talking about, the guy tried to make a run of it in terms of fixing bikes or doing custom bikes. I think it's called Film Grain Rides or something. Riverside Motorcycles, I think it was. Really interesting video. So big thumbs up to him and whoever he's involved with there. It's a shame. It's a shame. Things don't work out. It's a real shame. And it's trying to make a living out of motorcycles and because I've noticed this in the past. Anytime I've tried to do something in the workshop as well, and this is something that I've always fought in terms of trying to build bikes or trying to fix bikes. If the project is too long, I just don't enjoy it that much, because actually I'd much prefer to be riding bikes and getting out there and enjoying it as opposed to fixing them. I enjoy the fixing part. I love workshoppy type stuff, and I'm looking across into my workshop now, and I just love having a workshop. But don't get me wrong, I love riding bikes much better. Do you know what I mean? Scoot. Back in the UK now. Okay, great. Thank you. Good to know. Richard Perry. Hello. I remember you from old. Hello there. How are you? You still got the trike? I assume you got the trike. What are your thoughts on the 2026 trikes that have come out from Harley Davidson? Because they've gone in that general direction. But look, I thought it was very interesting that the guy is having obviously depression problems, looking at a way forward into 2026. And I think that this happens to a lot of people in different levels, right? We kind of have that winter slumber. We get, some of us, not all of us, some of us are getting on in years. So we could have health issues. We could have life-changing issues. Some of us have family issues to deal with and tragedies and, things like that. And unfortunately, that's what happens as we get older. For the most part, at some point, that's going to happen. So you're kind of dealing with a lot as you get older. You're dealing with a lot. And, I'm naturally a happy person. It takes a lot for things to get me down. But the interesting thing is the very same with like chronic fatigue and chronic pain. And what I call chronic pressure is that things can affect you even in small amounts, but over a prolonged period, it can really get you, and you don't even realise it's getting at you. And I think the therapy of motorcycling, riding bikes, and just getting out there and doing stuff and meeting other people, even if you're not meeting other people, just getting out there and doing something, riding bikes is worth its weight in gold, and sometimes I say, trying to make a business out of bikes is a very hard thing to do. I've heard this so many times before. When people are working on bikes, fixing bikes, and trying to make it into a living, it's never what they thought it was, and especially when it overtakes your enjoyment of riding bikes as well. It's a different. I think that the difference is, at one point I was thinking about setting up my own workshop, setting up my workshop, my service centre, like a backstreet type thing. But it was going to, I don't know if you've been with my channel, you've probably heard me talk about it before. It was going to be a mixture of a work filming studio, a kind of meeting place, cafe, where you'd be able to see through a glass wall into the workshop. But the workshop wouldn't be doing custom bikes or anything like that. It would be just doing high turnover, servicing, that kind of stuff. Minimal technical expertise required, and minimal investment in tooling. And, so minimal, but it still offered a service and a meeting place for people to go in. And the whole point was that you could do these jobs really quick. Because I know from my own projects working in workshops, things can take months, can take weeks. And it brings you down, but also brings the person who's waiting for that job as well, brings them down. So I think if you could speed up that whole process and make it a fun, engaging type of scenario, then, hey, listen, I've just given away my idea to people, right? But you're not reliant on big motorcycle projects coming into the workshop, to earn your money. You could just do things in a much more simple way, as it were. And this doesn't have to be for Harley Davidsons. It could be for any bikes coming in. But it would lend itself to almost like a culture around a service. It would, let's say, less of a workshop, more of a service shop, as it were. But anyway, so I thought that could be a good way to do it. Because I acknowledged the point I was trying to make, that I acknowledge that spending too much time on either your bike fixing it or especially on other people's bikes will actually take away you from take me away from what I enjoyed the most, which is riding. And this happens so many times. There we go. Sorry, right. So I've missed out a few messages. Let me get out to Bleak writes, hello, thank you for joining. No, just can't run. I should read. Hope you are okay back in the UK. Oh yes, I'm okay, thanks very much, and hope you're well wherever you are. Pistol Pete, turning 63 next month. Would like to keep riding into my late 70s, don't we all? If possible. So the smaller displacement, lighter weight bikes are so appealing to me. They are to me as well. I've been saying this for years and years and years. I love smaller bikes. I ride big bikes. I've always had big bikes for many, many years. But actually, I would never shy away from a small bike, especially either as a primary bike, number one bike, my only bike, or if I had a second bike. No problem there at all. Richard, hello. Yes, still got the trike. Had it over 11 years now. Love the new trikes, apart from the price. Don't we all? Got my MOT next week as well. Well, hey, great that you're still riding. Great that you still got it as well. I wonder, have you had any recall on your bike for the problems they had with the trikes? Was it with the differential at the back or something like that? That's what the big court case was in the United States for, was it last year or whatever it was, when the couple came off their bike. Scoot. Travelling with a Beamer in June to Chichester. Oh, lovely part of the world, Chichester as well. yeah, let us know. Let us know if you're down there, and then if it's on a day, I'll see if I can ride down and come and meet you as well. Be very nice to meet up. Wrong one. That's it. But anyway, listen. I think there's, we're probably all feeling it a little bit. You get cooped up in this. So I do this. So this, in terms of making videos, this takes a bit of time. I do stuff in my workshop. I go on my camper. I'm working all the time as well. So, I try and fit in biking as much as possible, but I make a concerted effort to get the bike out and go out and ride, even if it is for 5 minutes, 10 minutes down the road, especially if the world is coming in a little bit, just to get out and get out in the fresh air. I know, this is all that kind of Hollywood sort of, daytime TV kind of crap, right? But it is riding on the bike, wind in that face, let's make a YouTube of the wind in my face, riding my motorbike. Unfortunately, it is kind of true, right? It is kind of true. I was thinking, I should really start making those kind of videos again, where you see me riding my bike and, different angles of my bike, riding, going through the back roads and everything like that. And just, no sound, just me, the bike, the road, all that sort of stuff. And then I thought, well, come on, it's a bit cheesy. We've all gone past that a little bit. But the point is that those kinds of experiences, that's actually what we want. I mean, I don't know about you, but I much prefer to be going slower on a smaller bike, 400cc bike, right? Much slower on a 400cc bike, going through some back roads and through some countryside or whatever, than on a big sports bike or a big adventure bike or a big cruise, a big tourer on a motorway doing 70 miles an hour or 80 or more. Other people might do that. I would never do that. Unless you're in Germany, of course, with Scoot, and then you will go 120, of course, right? But, I would much... If you're on a motorway doing that sort of speed, it's just like, I'm bored. Do you know what I mean? I'm absolutely bored. I just do on it because I love riding, but at the same time, it's like, so it's much better to be on the back, especially even A roads, too busy. Much prefer to be on those country roads, 400cc. I rode the Royal Enfield Himalayan years ago. That was the 410cc. It was limp as you like, right? It's like, but great, really good fun, right? And I thought, this is perfect. This is perfect for these little roads around here. Doing a bit of off-road trails, coming back out onto the road, just chugging along, And I just thought it was brilliant. But limp as you like, but great, absolutely great. Pistol Pete, hello. Where are we? I see the name. I got a. Richard, I love your channel. Keep up the great work. Sign off. Pistol. Thanks very much. Really appreciate it. Alf, not had any vehicles on my trike. I think the lawsuits in the USA is on traction control. That was it, yes. Models, mine is none. ABS, all standard, and keep it simple to maintain. Yes, that was it. Thank you. I knew there was something, but I couldn't remember what it was, yeah. But there we go. Listen, all I can say is thanks for joining here today. Another impromptu live show. I will try, and the system which I'm using, just for information, the system which I'm using, I've tried a couple of times in the past to schedule a live show, but then when I go to actually start the streaming, it doesn't come up. For some reason, it doesn't go across, and it seems to disappear into the ether. So I need to do a few tests to see about scheduling it so you get much more of advance notice. Right now, I'm kind of saying, look, I'm going to go live and come and join me type thing. So I need to work on that a little bit, and I acknowledge that a lot of people may not be able to join or whatever. I'm also doing it at different times of the day as and when to fit in with what I do as well. But also to acknowledge that there are people in different parts of the world who may want to join live. I will say this, very interesting, and go check out his channel if you haven't already do. I don't know the guy, so he's not he's a fellow YouTuber in that kind of sense, right? But he's not a friend of mine in the fact that I don't know him, right? There's a channel in the channel in Australia. There's a couple of them actually, really good. Go check them out. Actually, and there's quite a few, but there's a couple I can come to mind, and they do Harley Davidson content. But one in particular, there's a guy called Old Not Dead, right? He's about my age-ish, something like that. Talks about Harley Davidsons and all that sort of stuff, and fixing them and riding and meeting people. So go check him out, really good. I like watching him. There's lots of channels around the world that I like watching, right? I don't watch them religiously in terms of, but I do catch up and see what they're doing. But he made a really good point the other day in terms of the kind of content that he's making, and I suppose that other people would be making. Not me, but I've removed myself from that kind of video making for a particular reason, right? But he's saying the problem is that views are getting less and less and less. People aren't watching this because more and more people are being attracted by these kind of AI, robotic kind of videos, especially for motorcycles. And a lot of it is just a load of old crap, right? One of the reasons why I do this kind of content now is probably about 1.5 years ago, 2 years ago, I liked the format of podcasting. I liked the format of radio, right? I like the format of just talking to people and talk about stuff that I actually really enjoy. I've done all the videos about, fixing bikes and riding bikes and all that kind of stuff. And it's not to say that I won't do it, but I thought I much prefer just to speak to people about stuff that is real. The problem is you're always going to compete with stuff that isn't real. And there's a load of crap information out there, either from real people, even from me, or there's from these AI bots or these whatever they are. So, I always think you've got to be really careful. And the thing is that this is affecting lots and lots of YouTubers around the world, especially in the motorcycle scene, because, fashions change, appetites change as well. Let's say for motor vlogs and all that kind of stuff, that all change, and kind of think, well, it's you got to do something different. For me, you got to do something different and change something different. And this is what I wanted to do with the way my channel went as well. I'd rather, especially these live shows now, which I really like the aspect of this, because I can speak to you directly. We can have a conversation there and then. You can put a point forward and I can address it there and then. Or you can put a comment in and then I could address it in the next live show. So I like that. But there's always going to be a problem. Well, how long do you go for to keep on doing this if nobody's going to watch your content, right? So it comes from people, just myself included, trying to think, okay, I'm going to make this, build up this channel, build up my other channels so that it becomes a self-sustaining thing. And then it all falls off the edge of a cliff and you kind of think, well, I either stop doing it completely or I just do it as a hobby, right? Or just continue it as something I enjoy. It really depends, and the motivations change from time to time all over the place. And this is not just in motorcycling, this is in lots of different things, right? But go and watch his channel, Old Not Dead, Old Not Dead, I think it is, and a really interesting video he did last time out as well. And I always try and give a shout out to other channels that I come across, and I think, you're doing some good stuff as well. So, really good stuff. So go check him out. There's a couple of others as well. I'll have a look at them and I'll bring those to you as well. But for now, look, Triumph Motorcycles, again, top stuff from them because they're doing some great stuff. We've still got ongoing issues in terms of road conditions here in the UK, all around Europe, in fact, all around the world, I'm sure. But we're hopefully coming out of the winter slumber, getting into some good riding weather, going and enjoying that, going and meeting up with people as well. And there's going to be lots of more bikes coming. There's lots of more bikes coming this year. I wouldn't be surprised if we have more reveals, more mid-year reveals. Triumph is certainly bringing out new bikes this year. Royal Enfield are bringing out new bikes. I think BMW are coming out with new bikes as well. So there's stuff still to come this year. So I'll try and bring that to you. And, hopefully A lot more fun and excitement coming in. So I hope you're enjoying this format, the way I do things these days. As I say, the other types of videos are not dead. I might do some impromptu type videos every now and again. I might, it depends what the weather's like. I might do some outdoor type stuff and bring it, but we'll have to see. We'll have to see how it goes. Scoop, hello, what did you say? I can imagine it's not easy to motivate oneself when there are less views. So I like this kind of blog podcast. Thank you very much. Thank you, Scoop. Yeah, it is. I think, I don't want to get all spiritual on you or anything like that, but all I would say is that some people, not some people, there is a very high percentage of people who do YouTube who only do YouTube for the views. They put everything they have and they grade what they do based upon how many people watch their channel, and if it becomes monetized, how much money they can earn from it, right? And they forget about what are they making videos for. I've made a whole series of this, talking about this years ago, in terms of ultimately the views don't matter. The subscribers don't matter. In terms of numbers, don't matter. The money that you potentially could earn, which isn't a lot at all, doesn't matter. What matters is, do you enjoy doing this? Is it worth your while for you? And is it worthwhile for anybody who's watching it? And if that's the case, great. You make a decision whether you want to keep on doing it or not. Because nobody's holding a gun to your head. You don't have to do this, and I don't have to do this. And, a couple of years ago, I was going to walk away from it completely. And I thought, no, I'll just keep on going and see how I go. In fact, actually what I did, I started 3 other channels, one sports channel, which I've grown a little bit, and 2 others that I've barely hit and got off the mark at all. But the point is, I wanted to experiment with it, and if I've got free time and I'm not doing anything else, yeah, I'll come and do this. But if I've got other stuff to do, guess what? If it's a choice between making a video, all this kind of stuff, or getting on my bike, I think I'm going to be on my bike. You know what I mean? And then I'll come back and talk about it later, of course, when I'm not riding my bike. So it's very hard to you have to kind of make your way through this fog sometimes to actually see what you really want, and making video content. And making this kind of content where we're talking to each other is what I actually really enjoy. As I say, I love the podcast format. I love radio. I've always been a massive fan of radio. Even though I do video content, I'm a massive fan of radio content in terms of just talking, having conversations. I remember even as a young kid, helping out on my parents' farm and always listening to the radio, and it was that kind of comfort. Even when I was by myself, working by myself, having that voice as I was doing something else, speaking to you and just there with you. Not with you in terms of engage what you're doing, but just something else, somebody else talking. Right? It was comforting, and it was, you get carried away. You'd be working away, and your work became automatic as you just kind of engaged with what somebody else was saying, and that's what I really loved. And this is what I try to now bring to this as well. Thank you, Richard. That's very kind. Thank you. That's very kind. But I always appreciate the support and the encouragement. Always love that, and of course, the subs is fantastic, the views is fantastic. But I always say if you want to support in every way you can, that's up to you. I'm never going to ask for your subs. Whoops. I'm never going to ask for your subs, really, and I'm not going to ask for keep on watching. I might put a banner up every now and again on my other videos to say like, share, subscribe, all that kind of stuff. But for me, that's not the important thing. The whole thing is, I've been doing this for too long to be chasing that. It's more about just engaging and talking and see what you guys are up to, and hopefully, whatever you're doing, you enjoy it. Yeah. Interviewing people. I used to interview people years ago. I interviewed some designers, Roland Sands. Who else was it? Quite a few actually from the motorcycle world. Back in the day, you have to go back into the archive. Who I interviewed. A lot of that was also on the back of the motorcycle magazine, which I had as well. So I was interviewing people for either written content or video content back in the day. So I've done it, and I always think, well, maybe I should go back and do a little bit more of that. Certainly as the summer comes up, maybe get into, or spring and summer, as more and more people are out and about, more about promoting motorcycling, and that kind of thing. I used to go into dealerships and talk to different people, bring a different aspect. So I've done all that in the past. I'm not saying that I couldn't do it again, but there we go. Shout out to the Motorcycle Action Group, who are trying to get road tax abolished for motorcycles at £30 a year. It's great values. Yeah. I used to be a MAG member. I haven't been for a few years. One thing or another. I sort of still support them in terms of spirit as well and everything. I remember Mr. Sands. Yeah. And Mitchell from XL Cycles. Who else? I can't remember. I must be getting old. I can't remember. I did quite a few at the time, but there we go. Anyway, listen, I'm going to leave it there. Thanks for joining. Nearly been an hour. That's enough, isn't it? That's enough of you guys listening to me. Honestly, when I'm on a roll, I could talk for 3 or 4 hours. I often think that what I should do is set aside maybe one night a week and do a midnight calling show. It wouldn't be a midnight call. It'll probably start about 10 and go on till about midnight or something like that. And I always say this, the only reason I would do it that late is, one, because it works with time zones around the world, right? But I also think this, if you some of you are older, you might know the reference here, but there used to be a TV program, American TV program, and again, this kind of goes into my love of radio, where this guy, he's a radio DJ, and he used to take in, it was a talk radio, he used to get in call requests, and he used to go off and investigate all these different crimes that were committed, and it was called Midnight Caller, right? And I always thought, wouldn't it be great to have a motorcycle midnight calling show? This could be, the midnight caller, motorcycle midnight call, whatever. I thought that'd be great. Anyway, you never know. I might just start doing that. You never know. Right, with that, enough of that. Go and enjoy your day, whatever you're doing. Really appreciate you enjoying in the chat. Thanks for everybody. Really appreciate that. Leave your comments if you're watching this later, and I'll catch you again on another video, live show, whatever, come very soon. Bye now.